You're at 109 right now.
If you go to ic109.com and search for the most recent post as of November 10th, you will find a post, a blog post, a blog written by me, by yours truly, entitled The Spirit Through Many Lives. Before you continue with this audio recording, you should find The Spirit Through Many Lives at ic109.com so that you may read along. Stop this podcast now. Search for The Spirit Through Many Lives at ic109.com. IC109, ISEE109.com. ISEE109.com. Found it? Good. Let's continue. This is a recorded reading of The Spirit Through Many Lives. Diviners were what might be phrased specialists in cool, whose own initiation had significantly combined prolonged staring at the sun with training in the lore of soothing herbs and cooling sacred water. The concern with herbs, green, and the disk of the sun, orange, immediately suggests a vivid sense of contrast in nature harnessed for a higher order. Yoruba, diviners. Diviners sometimes wear beads of alternating green and yellow color, symbolizing the mystic complementarity of heat and coolness, chaos and order in the world of divination. Robert Ferris Thompson. The first life through which the spirit traveled is Tupac Shakur. He was born into a revolutionary family, fierce, passionate, a warrior. Even his name was borrowed from a Peruvian ancestor who was a warrior for his people. It's interesting how a name transfers power from one life to another. For me, I was a high school student when Tupac Shakur was killed. I was a fan of his music. The news of his death deeply affected me and caused me to reel. I scoured the internet for clues in his music, in his lyrics, for what premonitions or signs there were. I came up mostly empty-handed. I was delighted to hear Tupac utter my name, Larry, in one song on his final album. Tupac rapped, "Larry Holmes all flabby and sick." Although he was referring to the boxer, it didn't matter. Before his death, I had witnessed as Tupac's popularity grew and his presence in the media exploded. I once saw him in person when I was around 13 years old. In my wallet, I kept his autograph on a post-it note that he signed after meeting him at the mall one fateful day. Then his life was extinguished like a flame. The process actually took course over 7 days, the 7-day theory. In the years following his death, I watched movies, documentaries, and listened to songs produced by him or about his life. I had to learn to accept the fact that he is mortal. In at least one song, "Only God Can Judge Me," I found a premonition of his death. Tupac rapped, "I hear doctors standing over me, screaming I can make it. Got a body full of bullet holes, laying here naked." Excerpt from Only God Can Judge Me by Tupac Shakur. The second life through which the spirit traveled was Nipsey Hussle, born Ermias Joseph Askedom. He was born in Los Angeles to a Creole mother and Eritrean father. Intelligent, proud, intentional. At the tender age of 9, there is evidence of his genius. He wrote poems for a class assignment. His poetic dexterity foretells his potential to be a rapper, wordsmith. For me, I wasn't attracted to Nipsey's music in the early years of his career. The first music video of his I watched was for the song Hustle in the House. He wore a blue sweatshirt which indicated that he was a member of the Crips gang. This was a sign that liking his music could be harmful to one's health. That is, in Los Angeles, simply playing a rival gang's music in the wrong area could lead to trouble. In one instance, gangster Mob James of the MOB Pyru gang of Compton was shot was shot at for listening to music by fellow Pyru gang affiliate DJ Quick. The colors blue and red signify membership in gangs, Crips, or Bloods. I learned not to wear those colors after a boy from the Bloods accosted me for wearing blue shoelaces. That was my first time getting pressed. I I am not affiliated with gangs and I am considered a civilian. For me, it didn't seem safe to gravitate toward Nipsey's music. Conversely, Snoop Doggy Dogg is a Crip, but his music has international appeal and his lyrics do not strongly reference active gang activity. Nipsey wasn't at Snoop's level, and his music was more graphic, more explicit, more unadulterated. But as the years passed, Nipsey's music developed, and I found myself gravitating closer to his songs, especially those that lacked gang references. In 2010, my childhood classmate, James, insisted that I listen to Nipsey's music more often. That year's hit by Nipsey Hussle was the song Feelin' Myself, which retold his Horatio Algiers like story. However, in Nipsey's case, he always had swag, so it wasn't a true rags to riches tale. James told me under no uncertain terms that Nipsey is the one. James even insisted that I visit Nipsey's store at the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson to buy something and support his brand. I was wary of the suggestion because I had already been pressed once. I knew that entering that area could lead to more pressure from local gang members. I avoided the area, as do most Angelinos who are not gang affiliated. By 2018, I had paid enough attention to Nipsey's music that I considered myself his fan. His music's message had gone from Bullets Ain't Got No Name, gangster vibes, to including powerful messages highlighting his maturity as a man and artist in songs such as Bigger Than Life. One morning, I mustered the courage to visit the Marathon clothing store. My mom and I were running errands near the Crenshaw district, and I suggested we pop into the store as soon as it opens at 9 a.m. so as to get in and get out. On that fateful day, Black Sam, Nipsey's brother, was there, and we passed each other upon entering the store. Black Sam, forever a hustler, was on the way to start running his day's errands. Nipsey was not around, but his father, Dawit, was there. I bought a Jean Michel Basquiat inspired t shirt and a sweatshirt with the Crenshaw logo. My mom and I were safely in and out of the store in less than 20 minutes. 1 year later, on March 31st, 2019, Nipsey died after being shot while standing outside the very Marathon clothing store which he owned and that my mother and I visited. This fact underscores how dangerous that locale truly can become. By 2019, I was a fan of Nipsey's music. His death deeply affected me. I reeled afterwards. I spiraled. I scoured for clues in his music for premonitions, signs, information there was to glean some resolution from his demise. I found one sign. It seemed highly pertinent that Nipsey uttered Basquiat's full name in his song entitled Face the World. I do not believe Nipsey ever rapped any other artist's name other than Basquiat. Nipsey rapped, Jean Michel Basquiat destroyed his pictures. Self inflicted homicide, don't pull the trigger. I feel like I got to tell you, you got something to contribute. Regardless what you into, regardless what you've been through, I feel like I gotta tell you, you got something to contribute. Something to contribute. Face the World by Nipsey Hussle. The Jean Michel Basquiat inspired t shirt I bought at the Marathon clothing store that day, and the utterance of Basquiat's full name in Nipsey's song, taken together, was proof positive that rappers were growing in awareness of Basquiat's legacy. In Nipsey's case, he borrowed from Basquiat's painting a phrase that he adorned on a t shirt. It read, Most young kings get their head cut off. Sadly, this message was a premonition of what was going to really happen to Nipsey. He, a young king, would eventually get his head cut off, metaphorically. The third life through which the spirit traveled was Jean Michel Basquiat. In 2005, the city was decorated with posters advertising an art show, an exhibit featuring an artist whose name I had never seen, Basquiat. The show was going to take place at the Museum of Contemporary Art, MoCA. As a high school student at Alexander Hamilton High School's Humanities Magnet, I learned about art history from Dr. Code. Instead of learning about Basquiat from Dr. Code, I remember hearing the names Picasso, Monet, Manet, Rembrandt, and the like. After a quick internet search, I learned that Basquiat was a black American artist. Intrigued, I made it a point to attend the exhibit at MoCA. I appreciated his art for the fact that, like a griot who honors somebody through his storytelling, Basquiat praised black entertainers and celebrities through his artwork. I noticed the names of familiar black heroes such as Muhammad Ali and Charlie Yardbird Parker. I had not learned much about jazz musicians up until that point, but I was sure to begin my research into their lives once I decided to learn more about Basquiat's inspirations. The one feeling that overshadowed my visit to Basquiat's exhibit at MoCA that year was the overwhelming sadness and anger I felt when I learned that the artist was dead. I felt angry that, like Tupac, another young black man, Basquiat was dead and not present to receive the world's praise for his work. I was sad that I could not tell him personally that I appreciate his art. What little I had learned about Basquiat that year served to inspire me to learn more about his life. I went to the Beverly Hills Library where I checked out a DVD copy of the movie Downtown 81 in which he starred. I watched it searching for clues, signs about his life and death. I gained a greater understanding of the lives around his that I had already come to know, such as Deborah Harry and Fab Five Freddy, aka, or rather Fred Brathwaite, aka Fab Five Freddy. I remember the song Rapture. I had heard of Blondie. I watched Fab Five Freddy host Yo MTV Raps when I was a teen. Fred Brathwaite, aka Fab Five Freddy, was everywhere at that time. Even though he was very much an East Coast personality, he even showed up to host Pump It Up, a West Coast hip hop TV show. Years later, I learned that Brathwaite stepped in to fill host Dee Barnes' position after she was severely beaten by NWA member Dr. Dre. For me, learning this new information served to solidify my mistrust of my former teachers. They hadn't done enough to inform me of the world. It was upon me to educate myself, fueled by a desire to learn more about Basquiat. I sought to attend new exhibits. Gratefully, I have attended Basquiat exhibits in Seoul, South Korea, Frankfurt, Germany, New York City, and Los Angeles. As I have learned more about Basquiat's art and life, I found he was inspired and educated through his own efforts as well. One book that Basquiat read was entitled Flash of the Spirit by Robert Farris Thompson. This book revealed the omnipresence of African influence throughout the world. Basquiat took this point to heart as he conjured Yoruban and Taino ancestral impulses that revealed themselves in his art. To this day, I personally see flashes of the spirit in the works of Jean-Michel Basquiat, Tupac Shakur, and Nipsey Hussle. In fact, in one painting by Basquiat, I noticed that there are too many coincidences between the life of Nipsey Hussle and the depiction of a man in the painting that I have concluded that it is Nipsey, painted by Basquiat 3 years before he was born. That is, Basquiat painted Nipsey in 1982. Nipsey was born in 1985. The fourth life through which the spirit traveled is that of John Coltrane. Just as I mentioned above about Basquiat's art being inspired by jazz musicians, I have found a great deal of inspiration in the lives of jazz musicians as of late. Notably, John Coltrane's story about searching for and finding God's inspiration is remarkable. To learn more, watch Chasing Train, a documentary produced by Public Broadcasting Service, PBS. Also, the fact that there is a church dedicated to his legacy is doubly remarkable. One detail that I find coincidental is the connection to the lives of John Coltrane, Jean Michel Basquiat, and Nipsey Hussle. That detail pertains to the city of Tokyo, Japan, where a photographer of Nipsey, where a photograph of Nipsey was taken 30 years after I believe the painting of him in an Asian country was created by Basquiat. That painting is entitled All Colored Cast Part 3. Curiously, Japan was important to John Coltrane as well. There, his spirit flourished in a new direction. His empathy for the Japanese who suffered after the bombings of 1945 led him to create Peace on Earth, a tribute to Japan's suffering. Coltrane also stated in an interview recorded in Tokyo that he wanted to be a saint. The last connection to all of these men is me. I have learned about Basquiat, Shakur, Hustle, and Coltrane. I have found that each of these men is an icon of his own making, genius personified in each case. Tragic, two lives lost to drugs, heroin, two lives lost to bullets. Their voices reached the masses. Japan was a part of each man's life. John Coltrane's only tour of Japan was in July 1966. During this tour, he performed concerts in Tokyo and visited other locations like Nagasaki, where he visited the Atomic Bomb Hypocenter Memorial. He also brought his quintet, which included his wife, Alice, and they purchased a shakuhachi bamboo flute and koto 13-string harp while in Japan, reflecting his growing interest in Japanese music and culture. Jean-Michel Basquiat visited Japan numerous times, holding 6 solo and 10 group exhibitions. His experiences there influenced his work, and he incorporated Japanese words and characters into his art, as seen in pieces like 1,000,000 Yen. Tupac Shakur toured Japan with Digital Underground in the 1990s. Nipsey Hussle initially visited Japan in 2004 and then again in 2012, where he filmed visuals for his video Forever on some fly ish. Basquiat's painting All Colored Cast Part 3 is the premise of the belief that the spirit inspired him to paint a premonition of Nipsey Hussle. The painting itself is full of references to Nipsey Hussle's life. Personally, I arrived at this conclusion only after finding a picture taken by Nipsey on one of his visits to Tokyo, Japan, during which a photo of him was snapped standing in front of Shibuya Ichimaru-kyu, Shibuya 109. The fact that Coltrane has a church dedicated to his opus, A Love Supreme, and its divine inspiration is inspiring to me. My experience of having seen 109 on the day that Nipsey was murdered and seeing a cross in the sky 7 days thereafter led me to presume these sightings were divinely inspired. Coincidentally, I visited Nagasaki just as Coltrane had done. Was my visit there also divinely inspired? Was I called there? At the Hypo Center, I spent several minutes pondering the destructive nature of the bombs in the same manner as had been done by Coltrane. What's incredible is the fact that all the scientists who worked on the Manhattan Project had to arrive at 109 East Palace before proceeding to a clandestine location where they developed the atomic bomb. The connection between Tupac Shakur and Nipsey and Japan is found in the posthumously released track entitled International, wherein Nipsey raps about Tokyo. Nipsey rapped, "As God as my witness, right hand on the Bible, and Tokyo Bunny turned it up. Arigato." International by Tupac featuring Nipsey Hussle and Young Dre.
You're at 109 right now.
Man, as best I could, I'm trying to do exactly what the title says. This is the commentary now. The spirit through many lives. All right, I just got some a text message from Justin here. He's telling me look at these three verses in the Bible that are 10:9 verses. I'll check them out in a minute. Um, let's go back to the beginning. It's this quote by Robert Ferris Thompson talks about diviners or diviners, divination, not divination, but divination, diviners, okay? And so these are the spiritual people, shamans, like AKA shamans, I think, all right? But what's interesting about that quote is that Robert Ferris Thompson mentions the colors green, orange, and yellow. Specifically in this quote here, he's talking about higher orders, right? He's talking about higher orders. He's talking about mysticism. He's talking about chaos and order, divination, and he mentions three colors: green, orange, and yellow. And the painting to the left predominantly has the color yellow. There is what appears to be orange, and there's absolutely some green. Those three colors are dominant in this work. The yellow is dominant. Excuse me. I thought I had to sneeze. Yellow is the predominant color, and then you have accents of orange and you have green. You certainly have black, and you have white. There's blue. Yeah, a bunch of different colors here and there. But the yellow, the green, and the orange, or rather yellow, is important. So the first quote here is not a throwaway quote. It's actually coincidentally an utterance by Robert Ferris Thompson in his text, in his writing. He was writing. This is an excerpt from. I have to put that. I've got to change that. Where did this come from? This is an excerpt from Robert Ferris Thompson's article entitled "An Aesthetic of the Cool." That's where it came from. An Aesthetic of the Cool. And isn't that coincidental that he references those colors and those colors happen to be in the work of art by Basquiat? That is tremendously coincidental and phenomenal to have that occur. So the painting itself is of a higher order, to borrow the phrase from Robert Farris Thompson. Jean-Michel Basquiat was acting as a diviner. The work of art is a product of divination, of Basquiat's divination. It's all there. Perhaps the Robert Farris Thompson refers to the heat and coolness. So the heat of Nipsey Hussle's murder and the coolness of the creation of this work of art that I've found taken together has created cool. It is now cool. We were hot, we were saddened by Nipsey's murder, but this painting that speaks to, that references Ermias's life, cools us, calms our spirits, because we see the divinity. We see that although God took him away from us, God was present. God rose within him. And we have God to thank. And God leads us. So, what a connection. I have to resonate on that because none of this was planned. This was not the intention. This was just something that I found, something that I noticed. Now, as I continue, the purpose of this is to draw parallels between Tupac Shakur, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Ermias Askedam, and John Coltrane. Now, let's go to the work of art. To really draw these icons together. Let's draw it through the work of art. Okay. Let's say there's a male figure, what looks to be a male figure in the painting. Let's say, let's start with the artist himself. Actually, no. Let's leave the artist for last. We'll leave the artist for last. Let's start with John Coltrane, shall we? Let's go in chronological order. John Coltrane. We have a black man on the painting. Let's presume that the black man in the painting is John Coltrane. It's John Coltrane, and we have, perhaps we can say that there are Roman numerals 6, 7, 8, and 9. 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's imagine that is in reference to maybe A Love Supreme. I know A Love Supreme has four parts. John Coltrane. But perhaps the 6, 7, 8, and 9 could mean more. Let's see what we've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we have a 5? Is there a 5 in the painting? There's no 5. Possibly there's a 5. I do see an IV in the MCLMVXXIIVI, but I don't see a 5 alone. Okay, but this would be the 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Maybe these are the 6, 7, 8, and 9 parts of A Love Supreme. Let's say something like that. All right? Just to throw that in there. Are there any other? Well, yes. Okay, I see it. I see it now. John Coltrane in A Love Supreme had he named his works A Love Supreme Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 and Part 4. So in this painting we have a Part 2. It says Part 2. Alexander the Great, it says Part 2 and it's stricken out. Basquiat struck it out. Um there's actually another work of art, All Colored Cast Part 2, I believe. Parts 2 and 3. Part 2 and well, okay, that's it. I ran out. Okay, all we have is for John Coltrane is we have a male figure. Okay, and we have Roman numerals that could potentially follow the sequencing uh, of tracks on Love Supreme. We also have part two, which can be in reference to the different parts on A Love Supreme. All right. So those are some of the things. Now I'd have to do some more research and find something to connect, something to link uh, John Coltrane with this painting. Let's see. We do have dipsomania, which is a reference to alcoholism. Perhaps John Coltrane maybe struggled with alcohol as well as heroin, possibly marijuana as well. Heroin definitely ravaged his, I believe it's his liver. So we do have reference to a liver, so that could potentially be another link to Coltrane um, there. Perhaps there was something in the year 1947 that was pivotal in John Coltrane's life. Let me do a quick Google search. John Coltrane, 1947. AI says in 1947, John Coltrane began playing the tenor saxophone and joined Eddie Cleanhead Vinson's R&B group. This marked a significant transition from his previous alto saxophone playing, influenced by his admiration for Charlie Parker. 1947 was a pivotal year for Coltrane's professional and musical development as he also performed with the King Colacs band. It says here, there's more. Transition to tenor saxophone. Coltrane switched from the alto to the tenor saxophone around 1947, a change influenced by the bebop style of Charlie Parker. I did not include Charlie Parker in the list of individuals, of icons that I've linked through the spirit for this particular article, but Charlie Parker was absolutely a fan, a fan favorite of Jean-Michel Basquiat. Jean-Michel Basquiat was a fan of Charlie Parker. Yep. Next, professional debut. He joined Eddie Cleanhead Vinson's R&B band in 1947, touring and playing with the group for about a year, continued learning. During this period, Coltrane continued to develop as a musician. He was also with the King Colacs band at some point in 1947. All right, so those are the highlights from John Coltrane. So 1947 was a pivotal year in John Coltrane's life for sure. All right, and we certainly have reference to it there, 47. Okay? All right. Let's see. What happens if I type in October 9th for and John Coltrane? Now, because there's 109, my favorite numbers. Let's see if there's any connection to 109. It says here October 9th, 10/9 is significant for John Coltrane, marking both his birthday in 1926 and recent commemorative events such as a 2025 concert in Paris and a 2020 release of classic albums. Some recent activities include birthday celebrations in New York, a 100th birthday tribute concert at the Kennedy Center, and the release of an all analog mastered set of ballads and A Love Supreme on October 9th, 2020. All right, so I'm confused. It says on October 9th is marking his birthday in 1926. It says here John Coltrane's birthday was September 23rd, 1926. His birthday is a date for celebrations. Okay. All right, folks. So there's no connection to October 9th, except it says the release of an all analog mastered set of ballads and A Love Supreme. Okay, so they released his music 5 years ago on October 9th. That isn't particularly significant because it's kind of like a throwaway detail. It's like it's posthumous, and it was a re-release of his music. I'm talking about something that really happened in his life that was significant on that day. We haven't found it. All right. So, connections to John Coltrane. If we imagine that that's him there, let me do this. If we imagine that's him there, then let's see, liver. John Coltrane died from liver cancer. There we go. Liver cancer. All right, so we've got John Coltrane. If we look at the painting and we're linking the painting to John Coltrane, we absolutely have a black man, a figure of a black man. We have no, we have numbers. We have numbers listed in the same manner that A Love Supreme has numbers listed. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. We can imagine those are Part 6, Part 7, Part 8, Part 9 in Roman numerals. And then, in fact, there's even a Part 2 to the title of this work, which is even more closely related to A Love Supreme's track listing. Then we have Liver, which can be linked to John Coltrane's life because he died of liver cancer at the age of 40 years old. It says here he had complained of severe stomach pains for several weeks before his death, but refused to see a doctor until shortly before he was hospitalized for an inflamed liver. It's possible his liver cancer developed from a hepatitis infection he may have contracted in his younger years. Okay, so the liver cancer, excuse me. So all of those those are all references to John Coltrane. At least that all that I can see and that I can quickly find here using Google. Okay. Wait a minute. Because as a jazz saxophonist, he had to use his lungs, so liver and lungs. It says here John Coltrane's lungs are not directly a subject of extensive public record, but his intense saxophone playing likely put significant strain on his respiratory system, a common aspect of playing the instrument. However, he died from liver cancer, which was likely a complication of hepatitis B, and his death was not directly caused by a lung condition. Okay. Now, but the lungs refer to the wind, the breath. That refers to 108, by the way. So those are the links. That's how we link John Coltrane. Let's imagine that's John Coltrane. We've got his death by his liver. We've got the lungs that he used to blow that saxophone. We've got 1947, the year that he switched from one instrument to the other, thanks to Charlie Parker. We have listings of numbers like his magnum opus, A Love Supreme, numbers listed. Okay? So, in one sense, this could be John Coltrane. All right, let's move on. The next person would have to be Jean-Michel Basquiat. Basquiat was born in the 60s. We're going to leave Basquiat for the end. Tupac Shakur is next. Tupac Shakur was born in, Was it 69? I want to say. Let's see, Tupac Shakur. Tupac wasn't born in 69. I think it was 71. Tupac Shakur, yeah, Pac was born in 71. He was only 9 years, about 9 years older than me. 9 years older than me. Only 9 years older. That is utterly devastating. Only 9 years older. He spoke his mind, though. My goodness. All right. So now with Tupac Shakur, let's imagine as we look at this painting, All Color Cast Part 3 by Jean-Michel Basquiat, let's link Tupac Shakur to this painting. We have a black male. That is Tupac Shakur. We have, let's see, where did the bullets, let's do shooting injuries. Let's find out where Tupac Shakur was hit. It says Tupac Shakur was shot 4 times, once in the arm, once in the thigh, and twice in the chest. Okay, so we have chest. So if this is Tupac Shakur, it reads clearly chest. Tupac was shot in the chest with 1 bullet entering his right lung. There we go. We have the connection with the lung. Tupac, chest, and lung. The severe internal bleeding and damage led to him being placed on a respirator and having his right lung removed. He died 6 days later from his injury. So we have 6. We have the number 6 on in Roman numerals. 6, 7, 8, 9. 6 days later, which were officially ruled as respiratory failure and cardiopulmonary arrest. Shot location: Shakur was hit by multiple gunshots in a drive-by attack. The bullet struck his right arm, right thigh, and his chest twice. Where did I read his chest? His right lung was removed, severe internal bleeding and damage. Twice in the chest with 1 bullet entering his right lung. Okay. Okay. So, chest and lungs. All right, let's see if liver has anything to do with Tupac Shakur. Liver. Tupac Shakur did not have a liver condition. He died from complications related to multiple gunshot wounds sustained in a drive-by. 4 gunshots in total, 2 to the chest, 1 to the arm, and 1 to the thigh. A bullet that tore through his right lung, causing extensive internal bleeding. Doctors at the right lung was removed. Respiratory failure, cardiopulmonary arrest. While in the hospital, he reportedly also experienced kidney failure. And was placed on life support before his mother made the decision to cease medical treatment. Oh, that's so sad. That is so terrible, man. Okay. Tupac was shot in his chest and in his lung. So there we have 7, the number 7 next to the lungs, okay? 7, 6. Chest. Okay. Now, what really sticks out, what is very striking to me is that the name of Toussaint Louverture is the name of a revolutionary. And if we were to update Jean-Michel Basquiat's painting, we could easily substitute Toussaint Louverture's name for Tupac Shakur's name to pay homage to Tupac. We could do that. And is there anything else? There's nothing else that immediately sticks out that says, hey, this is Tupac. This could be Tupac. When I think of Tupac, the connections would be, well, it's Tupac. It's what is it called? It's Peruvian, a Peruvian name. Are there any references to Peru here? We have what looks like a lightning bolt, but it could also be the steps on Machu Picchu. That's a bit of a stretch, though. You know how the landings are on the mountain, the terraces, the terraces of Machu Picchu, that kind of looks like that. But it's also a lightning bolt, so it's like, ignore that. All right, so if that's Tupac Shakur, then we've got Tupac. We've got the black male figure, that's Tupac, shot in his chest, punctured lungs. Toussaint Louverture, a revolutionary, just like Tupac Shakur. Those are the Tupac Shakur links, connections. Okay, let's move on to Nipsey Hussle. Now, Nipsey is the one who is the most connected to this painting, period. Let's go with it, all right? Let's start with at the top of the painting. It says Alexander the Great. Nipsey called himself Nipsey Hussle the Great. There's a link right there. It gets deeper though, y'all. Alexander the Great was a Greek leader. And where do marathons come from? The first marathon was run in Greece, ladies and gentlemen. Nipsey Hussle's name brand is The Marathon. That is a direct connection to Alexander. Just that name alone on the canvas, that is Nipsey Hussle's connection to Greece right there. But it doesn't end there. This reference to Greece doesn't end there, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know the story about the very first marathon? It goes like this. There was a war, a battle in the city of Marathon. And Pheidippides, a runner, left the city of Marathon to run all the way to the city of Athens because he had to tell the people of the city of Athens that the Greek people of the city of Marathon had won the battle. He took that responsibility upon himself and he ran, I think it was some 40 miles, but he ran that distance. And then when he got to the city of Athens, he uttered the word, I think it could either be pronounced Nike, 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 I don't know. But Nike shoes that we wear today, that Nike, it means victory. And that's what his responsibility was to do, to tell the people in the city of Athens that they were victorious. So what does victory have to do with Nipsey Hussle? Nipsey named his debut album Victory Lap. Now, folks, we've only looked at one reference in this painting. It's the name Alexander the Great, and we already have two connections to Nipsey Hussle. We have the Marathon clothing brand's name and the name of Nipsey Hussle's first debut, Nipsey Hussle's debut album, Victory Lap. Those are two that are related to Greece by way of Alexander the Great, which is mentioned on the painting. And we haven't even gotten into the rest of the work yet. That's just one reference right there. Okay. Moving along, there are 4 letters right above the head of the person. At this point, we're saying that that person, that depiction on this painting, that's Nipsey Hussle. Okay? We've already gone through John Coltrane and Tupac Shakur. Now it's Nipsey Hussle. All right. So those 4 letters are F, K, G, and D, which really appear to read fuck God. Now, there is a company that was created in the 1980s. Around, I think it was 1981. The company was founded. I believe it's a British company, mining company, and they used FKGD as their ticker symbol, I believe, on the London Stock Exchange. They have since changed it. The company is now called, I think, something like Capricorn Holding Company or what have you. Anywho, the company is the ticker symbol a long time ago when it was founded in 1981. It was FKGD. Let's look closely at those letters because it looks like FK could read fuck and GD could read God. Okay? Let's not read in anything into that statement, but let's deal with the fact that just above the male head on this painting, we have the letters G and D, like God. And let's imagine that that is the name of the person, GD, God. Let's imagine that's the person's name. What connection does it have to Nipsey Hussle? Well, Nipsey's name was Ermias, which translates to God will rise. So we basically have Nipsey's name above his head. Imagine that. It's so close to his head that it is very much an identifier saying, hey, this is who is in that painting. This is who that is right there. Okay? All right. So then we go from the top of the cranium, we go to the brow, to the forehead. Above the brow, we go to the forehead. And although the painting is predominantly yellow and then black with accents from orange and green and white and some other colors, we have a blue color, a blue splotch, a blue area right on the forehead. What on earth could that mean? What kind of connection could that be? Could that be saying Nipsey Hussle, this person that I am painting, has the blue color on his mind? What could that blue color represent? It could certainly represent Nipsey's gang, the Crips. So now we've gone from Alexander the Great to God, a reference to God, and now the color blue on the forehead of this person that I'm saying is Nipsey Hussle. Of course, at this point, it seems like these are very weak links, very weak connections, and they're very, although they are imaginative, they're very weak. They're not very convincing or persuasive. But bear with me. Let's continue in. All right. Now, just as we did with Coltrane and Shakur, the body has the word chest on it. And in Coltrane's case, chest, that's where the lungs lie. Okay. Um, yeah, Coltrane had very strong connections to chest, liver, and lungs. Tupac had connections to chest and lungs. But Nipsey has a, a very intense connection to chest, liver, and lungs. You see, Nipsey was shot in his chest. He was shot in his body about between 10 and 11 times, according to the reports. The bullets that pierced his chest, well, they pierced his liver and they pierced his lungs. It's right there in the painting. It tells you chest, liver, and lungs. His liver and lungs were pierced by those bullets. Now, those are facts. Those are the facts, okay? Um, I could stop there, but I have at least two, possibly three other details, maybe even four. Five, actually. Yeah, there are actually five. But the strongest one is the one that we really need to address. I'll just skip to that. The strongest bit of evidence is that Nipsey Hussle's autograph signature is on the painting. I'll say it again. The painting is autographed by Nipsey Hussle himself. How's that possible? What are you talking about? Now remember the wild statements that I've made thus far. I said that this painting was created 3 years before Nipsey was even born. I said that I probably didn't make this point clear, but there is a photograph of Nipsey that was taken probably in 2012 when Nipsey was in Japan for the second time. That picture of Nipsey taken around 2012 looks just like this painting. How does it look just like this painting? This painting looks nothing like Nipsey Hussle. I get it. I know. Here's how the picture and the painting are connected. This is like the sixth link that I haven't discussed. I was counting the number of links and connections. This is number 6. I didn't even think to bring this up. I'm glad I brought this up. The picture exists. Put the picture side by side with the painting. No, they don't look alike. But you know what you're going to find? If you look at the painting, you're going to find a male figure. And if you look to the left of the male figure, you will find the number 109, 109. Look at the picture of Nipsey Hussle, and you're going to find Nipsey Hussle standing in the center, and then off to the left, you're going to find what numbers? 1, 0, and 9.
You're at 109 right now.
The fact that the picture exists, the fact that the picture and the painting are so similar is really something to ponder. Now, the picture and the painting don't look anything like each other, but they do have similar elements in them. That's undeniable. But here's another thing. Basquiat wrote the word China on the painting. And China is an Asian country. Where was the photograph of Nipsey taken? But none other than in an Asian country. It was in Japan. That's interesting. That's a connection. That's a link. Now, albeit it is a weak connection because it actually says China on the painting. It doesn't say Japan in the painting. That would be far stronger. But the strongest evidence, but okay, yeah, the strongest evidence is the signature, Nipsey Hussle's signature. That is wild. Because if you look at Nipsey Hussle's signature, now let's talk about the signature because Nipsey actually had more than one style of signature. All right? And I just happened to find a particular signature of Nipsey's that matches this one. So, although he's signed his name in a number of different ways, I did find one that is like this one. And that particular signature it had to have been created, written, signed in 2013 because it was on Nipsey Hussle's Crenshaw album that he signed in that manner, in that way. And that album was released in 2013. So, and it looks just like that. It's undeniable. If you look at the signature and you look at this painting by Jean-Michel Basquiat and you put them side by side, it's undeniable. There's no way that you can say that they are not similar, if not exactly alike. They're certainly not exactly alike, but they are incredibly similar. That the fact that his signature is there is really telling of, hey man, this really was some divination, some shaman like, some possession, some spiritual communications from the great beyond, possession of Jean-Michel Basquiat's body and mind to produce this work. I mean, it's all there. I guess if you want to see it. Um, the picture exists. Not only the painting, but the picture exists. Those combinations. Now here's the part that should really get you. The fact that you're even listening to this podcast, that I'm talking about this painting, the fact that I'm giving you this information is proof positive to what I'm referring to what I'm speaking of. It's obvious the spirit is working through me because I have seen this. I saw 109 on this painting. I saw 109 in that picture. I looked at them. I spent the time looking at both to say, what was Basquiat talking about in this work? And then it hit me. Oh my gosh. He's talking about Nipsey. These words refer to Nipsey. These are references to Nipsey. And that was when I found this work of art. That was probably 2 years ago. It was only within the last 6 to 8 months, probably more like 8 months. Within the last 8 months that I looked at the painting, or rather that I looked at Nipsey Hussle's signature, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I've seen his signature somewhere else. I know that signature. It looks familiar." And then I looked at the painting and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's his signature in the painting." Everything that I'm telling you right now, I didn't just quickly look at the artwork and then discover it or just put it together and say, "Okay, this is what it means in after let's after a week like of studying it." No. This was like 3 years of just coming back to the painting and being like, what do I see there? What do I notice there? Let's look at it. Let's look at it closely. I've been talking about this for an hour and 7 minutes. I could go for 2 more minutes and it'll hit the 109 mark. But that's not the intention of this. I'm not trying to focus on 109. I'm just trying to express myself as best I can and share my passion, respect your passion. So if you read along with me and you made it this far, beautiful. Tell someone else. Go get a copy of go get a copy of 109, the book. Go to ic109.store. Get a copy, a digital copy for $1.09. Read it. Let it let the story live with you. Sit on the story. Read it again and again. Come back to it. It's a short story. It's a short book. But the evidence is all right in front of you. And then go read the book and then go live life. And then come back to that book and say, you know what? I've had some experiences in life that have informed me the way that this work of art has informed you, and you see things, and then let that aspect of your spirit develop and grow. Let your third eye, open your third eye and see it. Yeah, we're getting closer to 1 hour and 9 minutes, 30 seconds until that time.
You're at 109 right now.
I think I've done a sufficient job. I think I've been thorough enough in explaining where I am with this, and I just hope that the message gets out there and people run with this and take it to the ends of the universe. 9, 7, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
You're at 109 right now.